On a barren ridge in southeastern Turkey, near the city of Sanliurfa, there is a low, dusty hill that farmers plowed around for generations. They called it Göbekli Tepe, the Potbelly Hill. For centuries, no one imagined that beneath this ordinary mound lay one of the most important discoveries in the history of archaeology, a structure that would force historians to rewrite the entire story of how human civilization began. For decades, experts assumed the hill held nothing but a medieval graveyard. Broken pieces of limestone poking through the soil were dismissed as unremarkable. But in 1994, a German archaeologist named Klaus Schmidt visited the site, examined those scattered stones, and realized instantly that they were not gravestones. They were something far older and far stranger. He would spend the rest of his life digging into the answer. What Schmidt's team uncovered was breathtaking. Massive T-shaped pillars of carved limestone, some standing over 5 meters tall and weighing as much as 10 tons, arranged in great circular enclosures. There were dozens of them, ringed together like silent stone guardians, with 2 enormous pillars standing at the center of each ring. Nothing like this had ever been found from such a remote period of prehistory. The pillars were not blank. Their surfaces crawled with detailed carvings: foxes, boars, snakes, scorpions, cranes, and vultures, rendered with startling skill. Some pillars had carved arms and hands wrapping around their sides, as if the stones themselves were abstract human figures wearing belts and loincloths. Whoever made them was telling a story. But the language of that story, its meaning and purpose, has been lost entirely. Then came the detail that stunned the world. When the layers were dated, Göbekli Tepe proved to be roughly 11,600 years old, built around 9,600 BCE. That makes it around 6,000 years older than the Great Pyramid of Giza, and more than 6,000 years older than Stonehenge. It is, by a vast margin, the oldest known monumental religious structure ever built by human hands. And this is where the mystery truly begins. 11,600 years ago, humans were not supposed to be capable of this. There was no writing, no metal tools, no pottery, no wheel. There were no cities, no kings, and, crucially, no farming. The people of this era were hunter-gatherers, wandering in small bands to hunt wild game and gather wild plants. By every rule of history, they should not have been able to build anything like this. Building Göbekli Tepe would have required quarrying, shaping, and moving stone blocks weighing many tons, without draft animals or the wheel. It would have demanded hundreds of workers laboring together, and someone to feed and organize them. This implies a level of cooperation and planning that scholars once believed only appeared thousands of years later, after the rise of agriculture in settled towns. Yet here it stands, built by people who had none of that. Even stranger, the site appears to have no houses. Archaeologists found no hearths for daily cooking, no permanent homes, no signs that anyone actually lived there. Göbekli Tepe seems to have been a place people traveled to, a gathering site, a sanctuary, perhaps a temple. This challenged one of the deepest assumptions in archaeology, that religion came after civilization. Here, it looked as though the temple came first. This led Schmidt to a radical idea. Perhaps it was the desire to build and worship together that pulled scattered hunter-gatherers into one place. To feed the crowds who gathered to raise these pillars, people may have begun cultivating wild grains nearby, and in doing so, accidentally invented farming. If that is true, then Göbekli Tepe didn't come after civilization. It may have helped create it. The carvings only deepen the puzzle. One slab, known as the Vulture Stone, shows birds, a scorpion, and mysterious circular symbols. Some researchers argue it records an astronomical event, perhaps a comet strike, encoded in stone by people watching the sky. Others dismiss the idea entirely. Without writing, we simply cannot know whether these images are a calendar, a myth, a warning, or something we can't even imagine. Perhaps the most haunting fact is how Göbekli Tepe ended. At some point, its builders deliberately buried the entire complex, packing the great stone rings with rubble and soil until the hill swallowed them whole. Why would people entomb the monument they had worked so hard to raise? Was it an act of reverence, of fear, or of forgetting? No one has ever explained it. Today, geophysical surveys suggest that only a small fraction of Göbekli Tepe has been excavated, perhaps as little as 5%. More rings, more pillars, and more carvings still lie hidden beneath the hill, and nearby sites hint that it was not alone. Somewhere in that buried stone may rest the answer to who these people were, what they believed, and why they built a temple at the very dawn of humanity. For now, the Potbelly Hill keeps its secret.